Hey, Gwen, you're gonna have to be
Hello,
very
guys.
quiet on camera.
Oh, yep, we just went live and welcome everybody. I'm Nicholas Live. We have a very special guest with lots of experience, and I can't wait to introduce everybody to him. Now, just to give you a quick sneak preview, this is Will Walker to the right here, and he is has basically lots of venture capital work and has 28 years of private equity. He also raised over $500 million in his lifetime. And not only that, he's also a retired Hollywood actor, so it just experience upon experience and just like endless amounts of experience. And we just came in cross paths with No Limit Coin team. We were able to talk, and I just really want to show you guys and tell you guys basically Will wants to bring and tell you what are basically some of the old views on Bitcoin, what the mainstream people are talking about, because most of us are so deep into crypto and we just don't really look around and see what everybody else thinks of us. And this is a perfect opportunity to mention it. Now, Will, thank you so much for taking your time and joining this live stream. Welcome, first of all.
Yeah, my pleasure, Nick. Thanks for having me, and look forward to having more interaction with your viewers in the crypto world. Which I've been fortunate to be part of for the last 4.5 years, and I work with some of the early pioneers, or have met, and some I'll name later today or in this talk, but some of the ones that were really the pioneers. 4 or 5 years is early to be in cryptocurrency and digital assets in the digital world, but it's not as early as Charlie and Roger Ver and some of the others that certainly were pioneers even before some of us private equity venture capital guys got involved. So.
And I honestly feel like I was early to the blockchain, and I was around maybe 4.5, 5 months ago. And to me, that feels more than early enough. When somebody like me, who is a very young person, and I literally just quit my job and just went full time, all the time, nothing else other than crypto, literally just dedicated this part of my life to crypto. And I do believe this is a golden time. Do you think this is still a great time to enter?
Absolutely, absolutely. You touched on it. I don't know if anybody in your viewers, probably the millennials, will never know Wayne Rogers. He was one of the stars of MASH, the TV show. Friend of mine. He was a big financial guy. He was on Financial News Network, CNBC. Anyway, he was a very astute and strong investor. He was part of show business, kind of like I was for many years, and movies and TV, and then went into a full-time finance career and certainly private equity career. Very successful and sharp guy. So yes, I do believe so. I'm kind of the Wayne Rogers of digital currency at this part of my career, my investment career, which, like you said, been over 20 years. So private equity and some venture capital. But to answer your question, yes, this is definitely back to the future. That's what I named some of my talks at different digital and crypto conferences that I speak at or attend. This is back to the future, which what I mean is back to almost like 1994, 95. We're in kind of the sweet spot where the dot-com boom was, when the internet first became starting to scale up, and people started to believe that it was just not more than a two-headed monster, and it was only going to be used for illegal things like like porn and party materials and things that we
And
won't go
drugs, and
into.
yeah.
Exactly. And so I just had the privilege of having a short lunch meeting with Charlie Shrem, and the first thing I said to him was, I said, Charlie, thank you for your service, because even us that have been in for 3-4 years or so owe a debt of gratitude, much like to our wounded warriors, our veterans, for their service and protecting us, and all the above. Certainly he had his ups and downs. If you haven't seen the movie Banking on Bitcoin, I'm sure most of your viewers have. That's a great documentary on the Bitcoin's journey. And certainly Charlie is a key part of that, along with some of his partners and Roger Ver and others. It's a great docudrama. But I thanked him for his service. I said that, because he literally paid a big price. And I'm getting a little teary-eyed here. It's my old acting coming up. For leading the charge. I always say the first people through any asset class door get shot, and that's one of my old sayings. And it can be true of even the .com boom until it started to really take hold and go mainstream and scale. And then everybody was going goldfish.com. Even if they were selling goldfish door to door, they just put a .com behind it, and some people threw money at them. So we're in that sweet spot where a rising tide floats all boats. It's one of the oldest sayings in securities and in the stock market. And that's what we've got here, 1994. So welcome back, everybody, whether you were born then or not, you're getting to relive it. And then out of the 94, 95 period will come the 1996, 97, 98 period. Correct. So anyway, there's a lot of similarities. One of my favorite sayings from this old actor here is, the only thing new you don't know is the history you don't know. And, when you put a few years on you and you've been around and you've done as many deals and, raised as much money and advised as many companies and people as I have, you really believe that because you see all the synchronimity and the similar aspects to different asset class, different trends, different major disruptions like the internet, now like digital currency, cryptocurrency, and how many similarities there are to the timelines where they hit certain momentum periods and where it is certainly the sweet spot, which I feel we're certainly entering into now. And it's been in the incubation period, I call it, for the grow and incubation period for those people who support seeds and plants out there. And now it's entering into the growth period, the sweet spot, like Nick is saying. So, but after that will come the cultivation and some of the regulation that's coming in, in the 1996-97 space, which will be an element that's going to be sobering, in my estimation, like it always is. But what I want to tell your viewers is that's healthy too. No one has a crystal ball, but it's a very healthy thing to get some regulation in there. The old saying again, you can't fight City Hall. Well, you can, but you've still got to take into effect some of their fears, some of their losses, some of their integration methods, and you can talk about that in banks and governments and all of that stuff. But anyway, that's a little bit of an opening salvo there.
That's a very
Back
nice
to
opening.
the future. Yeah, it was a hit movie. A good friend of mine, Christopher Lloyd, starred in it. He played the professor, and if any of you guys remember that, and there were, I think, 3 of them in the trilogy, Back to the Future. So now we're back to the digital gold future.
And speaking of digital gold, I am wearing a very bright orange shirt because I really want to dedicate this to the future of Bitcoin. And I can't really thank enough for all the people that paved the way to make this easy. I mean, nowadays, anybody can literally just quit their job and jump into crypto full time, not really having to worry about much, because as long as you're consistent and show that you can do anything useful in this like very, very big vacuum, because I just think that Bitcoin is expanding so much. I mean, blockchain in general is expanding so much that there's a workforce missing, and to anybody that can contribute anything is just an invaluable asset. But before I go deeply into that, I really want to give a shout out to Casey and Oscar Peralta and Anthony Yankin. All these guys are from the No Limit Coin crew with us in the live chat. Welcome, guys. I'm glad you're in the live chat and watching.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was on with Oscar this morning, and I'm a big fan of No Limit and what it's doing, and I really see that as one of the big winners here coming through from the altcoins. And it was great to see the banners that people are in or around Los Angeles, where I am right now. The banners are all going up through Cox Communication, which is our big communication. Once again, this is what I mean about playing ball or taking into effect all the different mediums and things that can help cryptocurrency in general, but also help a very profitable company like No Limit, because they're rolling out a big campaign with No Limit at Cox Communications. Well, Cox covers, Southern California for many aspects of media, not only TV, but other outlets, digital outlets too. So it's huge. It's the 800-pound gorilla. And you can love them or hate them, but it's better to be in with Rome than to try to fight Rome.
Exactly.
And they're certainly putting up really cool banners and rolling out a lot of digital and even some TV ads for No Limit, which are hitting the sweet spot. I'm talking with people like Randy Couture and his manager right now about supporting MMA and fantasy sports, and which they're big in, and all that. They live right in Los Angeles. So when they see some of this stuff rolling out for No Limit or for other, viable coins or contracts, it's a big deal, because then they want to get involved, and they know this is not only, that coin is here to stay, but they're doing all the right things, which is important for any company, coin, or contract to follow, hit timelines. I'm always talking about Nick and Dan and Raphael Grosswert, who's the CEO of No Limit. So, people watch things, powerful people that can do a lot of good and want to be and are being very supportive for the altcoins as well as for the bigger coins and contracts. But it's important this whole ecosystem thrives for all of us, whether even if you're just a straight investor in some of this stuff and following really smart people like Dan and Nick and some of the people that
Thank you.
Have your best interest at heart, and certainly have been there and are doing, putting their money where their mouth is too, which is a big deal. So, this is a really exciting time for coins, public coins, high quality ICOs. Yes, there is a lot of, questionable things flowing through the system right now. Just like in the dot-com boom. Once again, if you didn't live through it, I mean, I lived through it, I prospered in it, but there were landmines everywhere. So they didn't show up for a year or two, but they showed up. And but then again, you wouldn't have the winners like the Googles and the Microsofts. You wouldn't have any of the formidable companies, even the Amazons. Which, by the way, if you look at their history, remember, the only new is that you don't know is the history you don't know. They went down 90% two different times when they came out. Facebook.
Amazon? Really?
Amazon. Yeah.
I didn't know that fact.
Yeah, they've had a very strong history. Believe me, Jeff Bezos, he talks about everything from now he's doing it. Rockets, sending rockets out and space. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Tesla, too. These guys are very forward thinkers. And a lot of traditional society and the investment group said they were absolutely nuts. And, some things worked, some things didn't over the course of time. But ultimately, they picked up assets and people, brain power, and survived and thrived, as we know now, in the stock market, and are continuing to dominate and have vision in many different areas. So a lot of similarities in many things. Facebook, I can remember being part of a small part of that IPO. Richard Cooperstein, one of my partners, investors that I go to, he runs a big media fund up in Los Angeles. He was the acting CFO all while Mark Zuckerberg and these guys went through college, because they were having these great ideas and they were implementing some, but they were all over the map. I mean, they were in college too. They were, leading a college life, and he was the old guy, kind of like I am sometimes now with different companies, that kind of kept them on their timelines, their map, and helped them to execute, and certainly, be physically responsible for the early investors and even later on. So he's a pretty famous, not known guy, but certainly he came out. He took that job, by the way, as a temporary job. He was running a big executive, 20th Century Fox and Universal. I don't want to bring in Hollywood studios here, but he was a top guy. He launched many big films with Tom Cruise and big hits and things like that I'm sure many people here know. He was in charge of a lot of that production and finance guys. So he was in between studio jobs, and his his partner called him up and said, "Do you want to go up and help this little startup company up north? If you take it for a couple of months and help them out, they'll give you some stock and blah, blah, blah." And that happened to be, so he said, yeah, he was a very giving guy, very smart. I went up there and just took it temporarily for a couple of months, ended up staying for 2 years plus and coming out with billions or a lot. And not only what he made, but what he contributed, I know was a lot, and now runs a big media fund up in Los Angeles, California. So, all of these things have a lot of tie-ins, a lot of similarities, and a lot of asset classes, whether it be cryptocurrency or it be real estate or cycles, momentum cycles, all that is all very, very familiar.
Actually, you mentioning cycles, this reminds me, should we expect a cycle of downtime, just as after the dot-com bubble ended, where it would be a good time to sell Bitcoin, or maybe even right now with all the futures coming, like this Sunday, like would that be a signal that maybe there's going to be a big decrease in the price, not long term, but maybe short term, like in all these cycles you mentioned?
Yeah, I think I agree with some of that you said, or were kind of leading me into. It's really big that the CBOE last week launched their futures and vehicle, and now the vehicle, of course, this Sunday starting at 3 p.m. Pacific. I chart all and watch all this stuff. I'm sure everybody else does too. Will start, and then their first official launch will be on Monday coming up here. But even Sunday, they'll start launching their trial balloons and testing everything and make sure it can stand, because this is going to be much more robust test of the options for Bitcoin, and then soon to be other coins and contracts, which I know they're already preliminary testing right now on Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash and some others that that they feel are going to have a big market, or people are going to have a big appetite for. And, a lot of this, your viewers, so yes, to answer your question, there's going to be a cautionary period, and this will take, hopefully, or they hope, it will be a big winner and take a lot of the volatility out of Bitcoin and the other coins, so you don't get these huge spikes. One of the things that keeps institutional capital at bay, besides regulators, is the big spikes and moves that they can't, adjust to or absorb if it continues to happen. I mean, like I say, many of the stocks we know today, the Amazons and the Facebooks, Facebook fell from 80 something when it debuted as an IPO, was in there down to 27 or 26 right away. I mean, it was like, this thing ain't going to work. Nobody's going to use Facebook. This guy's been feeding us a line of garbage. So the underwriters and the big banks and everything that were underwriting this and putting it out there at $70, $80, $90 a share, and think this thing's going to 200 immediately, and bubble, it went just boom like a rock in like no time. And they got lawsuits and they got crap, and excuse my French, but this is a big fear. A big deal. And yes, it may not be, always the best of people that are purist, because they don't want to see anything regulated. But, on these vehicles that allow puts and calls and people to go long and short, and for institutional money to come in, the volatility is what they're trying to control to bring the even bigger money in. So it's good. You got to look at it this way. Even if you can't stand Big Brother, don't agree with it, you want to keep it all to yourself, and this is going to be good for the entire ecosystem, for all the altcoins. And yes, some of the garbage will float for a while. That's flowing through right now, and probably more to come, like the .com boom. But they will get sheared, and unfortunately, they'll gain some momentum. Like I say, a rising tide in the water in the ocean floats all boats, and this is no exception. So you do have to look for the signs. You do have to look for the success of these vehicles that are coming out from traditional companies. I think it was about a month ago, I was excited because 2 leading Swiss banks launched some derivatives and some options on several coins out of there on the major Swiss stock market and exchange. And I know Canada and the Toronto TSX is gearing up for some stuff. Quebec and that area, Toronto, very progressive, very pro crypto. So yes, there's some yin and yang. There's some give up. There's going to be deal, but you have to look at this as an overall positive for all of the good companies and some of the bad that will get traction for a while, but the good ones will survive. They will join forces regardless of what period, a year or two, or who knows what. No one has a crystal ball. When there is a time where there is some retracement, which is normal, which is healthy, which is good for all of us, old and young, eventually, and certainly is a big boon to help companies that are real, that have good assets, good management, good fundamentals, and profit, and for all of us to profit short and long term. It's one thing to make a lot of money short term, and it's better to get equity or have something that grows.
Yeah.
That's how you build wealth.
Can you keep it really if you make it in the short term? And speaking of that, in it for the money. By the way, you have an amazing YouTube channel. You should definitely, guys, check him out. I'll put a link in the description. He just posted an amazing question in the chat. I'm gonna read it real quick for you guys. The question is it an edge or a disadvantage to have previous knowledge from the traditional sector when you go into crypto? Because this, as much as history repeats, it's a very fresh and new outlook on all this old type of stock brokerage, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a whole new world. Look at this virtual world, the Slack rooms and all of the YouTubers and all the things that people follow. And many people in areas get all of their, investment advice or information to make an investment decision. I won't say advice, because you got to be careful what you say on any of this stuff.
Exactly.
And, like I say, it's your journey, and you can tell your personal story, and you and Dan and the rest do that very well. And but many people are getting, their ideas and their theories, and certainly some of the things they want to participate in. And the start of that was crowdfunding. I was fortunate to be a partner in Serenity Venture Partners. We have a successful crowdfunding business, and we've got ModBook out there. I'll throw that out there right now. It's on WeFunder, and it's a very high-end electric new age tablet. And if anybody's interested, check it out. I think we just broke escrow on it on a crowdfunding event with really cutting edge products and exciting things. So that was kind of the first salvo, and then of course digital currency, which I was already in, came along, and it's joining forces. I see where Indiegogo, one of our partners in crowdfunding, which has a big platform out of San Francisco, is just announcing that they're going to be, supporting different ICOs and highlighting and,
that is huge.
Combining. Slavic, the CEO, is a big proponent and, for digital, but also he was a pioneer in crowdfunding, which is going to kind of be the same similarities in vehicles. So there's many exciting things here to go forward with from those angles, Nick. Yeah,
but in the end, like, it's all just history repeating itself. Now, it might be a different look, I'm sorry?
To answer your question, I think it's a plus. I really do, because whether you believe history repeats or not, it's all going to take its own life, as it already has. I mean, let's face it, they've tried to talk crypto down, and different circles are late to the party and embracing it and things like that. And I've been fortunate to speak and travel over the world. I was just in Seoul, Korea, where it's an official adopted of currency, but not only Bitcoin, but Ethereum, is really big, because, it's a really useful, blockchain application, and there's so many usages for it. Like I say, Reese Morgan is one of my mentors and partners in different projects that I work with in the blockchain. He was number 53 executive employee at Microsoft. He really oversaw a lot of the development of Microsoft's involvement with Ethereum and the blockchain, and he speaks on that all over. So if you get a chance to catch Reese in a university or a conference, please do. It's well worth it. Very sharp man who a lot of knowledge in many of the spaces, the utility usages. So once again, the good stuff is going to have great utility usages in my mind, just like a company. So when you talk about old school, funding a company, taking it public, or looking for a merger and acquisition play or joint venture operation, sort of like maybe someday maybe No Limit will have with FanDuel or something like that. You never know. So when you're looking at funding a company or structuring a company or a coin, an ICO, it comes down to really the people involved, the utility usages, and many things that I know, Nick, you and Dan are so adept at educating and making sure you cross your T's and dot your I's with your people. So I think it's a plus because the fundamentals are the same of what you're looking for in a strong company, a growing space. At the end of the day, it's always people that make things go. Remember that, crowd. It's people, always people. No matter how exciting an idea or a utility usage, it's still the people. And if they have the mindset, which certainly Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency world does, and everybody should give themselves a hand, be very proud that you are all pioneers, because we are still the second or third inning. Remember, it's 93, 94, not even to 95 yet, and then 96, 97.
And I was not even born, barely.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Now, I do want to leave room for one more question. Bill, it's an honor to speak to you on live chat and in this live discussion. I'm sure you're very busy, but what I wanted to go at is you are, very, very good with VC, like venture capital funding, right? And you have lots of experience with all those good companies and how the traditional way of funding goes. And what I've came to a conclusion is that it's very similar questions are asked when you want to see if an ICO is good, and if you're like an angel investor and want to give the seed funds to like a very traditional company. And it's very much similar things. Like I actually previously spoke with In It for the Money in another live stream really recently on this channel, is that some questions are very almost identical, like what is the value proposition, and it really does come down to these questions which get repeated over and over again. And unfortunately, most new cryptos at least, can't answer them, and that's why you have all these ICOs which are not the best quality, but of course there's at least a couple gems every month, and you just have to find them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you and Dan have really been great at your journey, to make sure you're learning this as fast as possible, and making sure you are asking the right questions with the key people and getting the right answers, but also following up, assets, management, dilution, all of these old adages that I would go when a company approaches me, to take them on, to shepherd them through whatever journey they want to take or what they're looking for. Exit strategies. Many times there's no exit strategies for companies. And I advise, CEOs of cryptocurrency companies as well as traditional companies on, what's the best way to align themselves to receive an exit strategy to their proportions or expectations, as well as their investors. So there's a lot of different ingredients that are all the same, and to prepare people, for investors and people alike for different things that can come down the road. Regulatory hurdles. I don't want to throw that too much in there, but there's lots of different things that can affect a company, a coin, and you need to make sure they have good representation, solid and getting good advice, because many of these developers, CEOs, CTOs, they're deep in their space. They're deep in this, and whether they're so it's very good to have other peripheral people involved with their company that can advise them and look out for them and guide them from the outside, even though they're insiders, so to speak. So the quality of people is very important, especially in key positions, and legal is part of that. So, but main thing is, the outstanding shares, outstanding tokens, use of proceeds, like Nick and Dan know on their journey. You go right down the line. It's very similar, Nick. So
Yeah.
like I say, it's always a plus because these are always questions I'll ask you, no matter how big the retainer check is for me or for me to get involved. I've got to know it's going to have a good shot in the right space with the right people at the right time. Timing's important too. That's why I'm always, telling people it's important. If you're going to say you're going to come out in mid-January, late January, don't try to stall it or for whatever reason, because everything is perceived differently, right, from the outside, and end up saying, well, it looks like it's going to be late February, March, because we've just going to add this new widget or this new cure for cancer to go in there, because it's going to be, whatever it is. Timelines are important, and for a number of reasons that we don't need to go into now. Some inside and some outside.
Exactly. And you guys call it exit strategy. Some of the new people may call it profit taking, but it's all the same thing. And I do want to drop in this question from Oscar. He did ask, now you don't have to share this but everything is live, and these are actual questions in the chat. What are the Bill's top 5 coins? Would you want to share some that you hold yourself in your portfolio?
Well, I'm not sure what I can recommend. I can just tell you what I'm high on right now is probably number one is Bitcoin Cash. Once again, I've been fortunate to have some meetings with some very well-heeled cryptocurrency veterans and other people, and I think that's certainly got a lot of utility usages. I think there's some great people behind it. They certainly are well funded. Again, that's another point where you want to ask a new company. Yeah, they may be coming to me or somebody else to look to raise money, raise capital, but how well funded are you, and what's your burn rate? How use of proceeds, how fast are you going to go through it, and for what? So those are all key questions. But I like Bitcoin Cash. I certainly like Ethereum. Barry Silbert and Ethereum Classic. He has a big fund. He has a lot of clout. He's doing some amazing things. There's another name of somebody I respect and listen to because he was a very early pioneer and big in Ethereum Classic. And he'll certainly, I think, get behind. I don't want to put words in his mouth. Bitcoin Cash, but EOS is certainly good. Looks very promising. OMG, some of the payment systems that are already out there and making moves. Just to name a couple there, I guess. And certainly Bitcoin, you got to thank the granddaddy. I always tell people we're coming up to college bowl season here. You don't know it, Nick, over there, but this is the big season for college football here in this country. I'm a big fan. And, Bitcoin is the Rose Bowl out here where I'm going to be attending in January for the big college bowl game. That's the Tournament of Roses. That's the granddaddy, they call it, of all the bowl games. Well, Bitcoin's the granddaddy of all this. And the sons and grandsons and granddaughters and, all that are doing some amazing things. So it's like that. And some of the tree will turn out to be not the best kids or grandkids, and some of them will turn out to be, the next Mark Zuckerbergs and people that do stick to things and stick to timelines and really execute, as well as have great ideas and really build something that helps all of us. Not only makes us all a lot of money, but really gives back and helps a lot of things. Walmart's tracking their food right now with the Ethereum blockchain, all of their food suppliers. It's really cutting down on taint and bad food, like Chipotle had that outbreak a while back, and all these people went to the hospital. I think a couple of people even went to heaven. So the blockchain in general and other forms that are coming after the blockchain, which are already on the horizon, but the blockchain will certainly be here to stay and thrive, are just incredible give back positions. I think we all have a lot to look forward to and profit from, but it's a great time to be supportive and be in there in the second or third inning here.
It is a great time to be alive, and this is the perfect time to end it. Well, it's like,
I will say one thing. Let me get a little flyer in there, Nick, real quick, for coins like No Limit that are already public. that are executing on their game plan. They're already picking up major sponsors and spokespeople.
Like you are an advisor for No Limit Coin, and they are
I
very
am. I have to disclose
fortunate to
that.
have
So
it.
I am. Yeah, I'm buttering my own. I'm buttering my own company, or one of the companies that I think highly of. But I actually bought No Limit and had No Limit before. And when I mentioned it to some of the biggest names in crypto, when I was just in Florida meeting with them and some others, they already knew No Limit and were already watching it. So I was really impressed because they have governments and central banks and get shown 100 ICOs a day, and their deal flow is very strong, and yet they knew and liked No Limit. I mean, at least we're very aware of it. So No Limit is I think going to have a lot of upside with very, very limited downside.
Exactly, and we would have never met in the first place if it wasn't for the amazing No Limit Coin. And actually, I do want to dedicate a really small shout out to this amazing project and do a very small giveaway of 200 NLC2 for a lucky person who wants to like, comment, and subscribe when this live stream is over. And I do want to congratulate to the last winner of 1000 Vibe, Dimitri32 from the last live stream. Now, I really like you guys showing up in the live chat. It brings all these amazing things to the discussion, and I learned a lot from Will's experience and your outlook, and I really want to thank you for coming to this live stream and chatting with us.
Well, thank you, Nick. And it's mutual, it's mutual. You guys in the next generation, this is your coin, your world, your ecosystem. So, I'm glad to be a little bit part of it and get to see it. Like I say, you may have heard me before of early stage cable television in the 80s, early 80s, early stage cellular telephones with Craig McCaw. Been fortunate to be attached to some very visionary trends and disruptive technologies that still aid us and help us today in many things. Yeah, there's been some bad things, still bad movies on cable, but and some shows, but there's been some great stuff too. So this is even bigger, and it's you guys' world, and it's really good to keep educating, keep promoting, keep vigilant, and keep pushing and investing.
I like that. The world is yours, guys.
Yeah.
Take it on. See you next time.
Ready to roll. But anyway, thanks, Nick, for having me on. Look forward to chatting with you guys more. And don't forget this Sunday, big event, and then December 28th, the NASDAQ, even bigger and even more mainstream, rolls out with different futures and different things. So these are big, big events coming right up.
Big for everyone, especially Bitcoin. So let's see how it works out. And you guys are having the front row seats. Enjoy the show.
Take care.